In the middle of a raw, unscripted confrontation that left the entire Real Housewives of Atlanta cast frozen in complete silence. Okay? Michelle looked straight into the camera with tears streaming steadily down her face and whispered the words that no one in the room ever saw coming as she said softly yet powerfully, "I did this to myself." Her voice cracked with raw emotion as she gently clutched her side. The same area that had been causing her noticeable discomfort and pain for many long weeks while she continued filming her confessionals. Carefully dodging personal questions from the producers and pretending with all her strength that everything in her life was simply another messy but manageable chapter in her already very chaotic and high-profile journey as a singer and reality star. This moment was not about any recent bad breakup or the usual petty shade being thrown around by the other ladies on the show, because what K. Michelle was revealing went far deeper than typical housewives drama and touched on something intensely personal that she had been carrying silently inside her heart and her body for a long time now. The entire suite suddenly felt heavy with tension as the room went completely dead quiet, with no one daring to speak or even breathe too loudly in that intense instant. Kenya Moore, who had been right in the middle of making a dramatic point with Canny, as a mimetic point with her hand still raised in that signature expressive gesture, actually froze in place with her mouth slightly open in pure shock and disbelief at what she was hearing. Cynthia Bailey, who was holding her wine glass, carefully set it down on the nearby table, so gently that it made almost no sound, yet everyone could feel the weight of the moment in that simple action. Even Portia Williams, who had seemed ready to engage in a heated exchange just seconds earlier, now took a visible step backward, as if the energy in the luxurious Sequoia Atlanta hotel suite had shifted dramatically from the usual fiery housewives arguments and confrontations into something much heavier, much more serious, and much scarier than anyone had anticipated when the cameras started rolling that evening. Because K. Michelle was not merely admitting to a simple mistake or a momentary lapse in judgment, but was instead opening up in the most honest and vulnerable way imaginable about how she had unknowingly put her own well-being at risk by pushing herself too hard and ignoring important signals from her body, all in the name of keeping up with a demanding schedule and the relentless pressure of being on a hit reality television series like Real Housewives of Atlanta. I ignored every single warning sign that my body was trying to give me. She continued with her voice trembling with a powerful mix of deep regret, lingering anger at herself, and overwhelming sadness as fresh tears continued to fall. I kept pushing forward day after day and week after week because I did not want any of you or the viewers at home to see how truly low and exhausted I had really become underneath all the fierce outfits, the bold makeup, and the unfiltered personality that everyone expects from me as K. Michelle the diva who never backs down from anything. The camera slowly zoomed in closer on her shaking hands, and the visible pain and exhaustion that was now clearly etched across her once fiercely confident face, while the rest of the women in the room stared in stunned horror, realizing that this was not going to be just another typical explosive RHOA blow-up filled with yelling, finger-pointing, and dramatic exits, but instead represented a woman who had finally reached her absolute emotional and physical rock bottom and was choosing to be completely honest about it, right there in front of her castmates and the cameras for the very first time. As the night progressed in that dimly lit, luxurious hotel suite in Atlanta, where K. Michelle sat hunched over on the edge of the large king-size bed with her designer dress now slightly wrinkled from the emotional intensity and her carefully applied makeup already beginning to run from the non-stop tears that simply would not stop falling no matter how hard she tried to compose herself. She looked straight into the lens with those famous fierce eyes that had always been filled with fire and determination, but were now overflowing with pure vulnerability and terror, as she repeated once more with even more conviction in her cracking voice, "I did this to myself," and those simple yet heavy words hit every single person in the room like an emotional slap across the face, because nobody had expected this level of raw, unfiltered honesty, especially not from the woman who would always come into every scene guns blazing, ready to read everyone for filth and never show any sign of weakness. Tonight, however, something felt entirely different because the pain she was expressing was undeniably real, and it was written so clearly all over her face and in every shaky breath. She took that it forced everyone present to pause and truly listen, rather than prepare their next comeback or witty remark. Kenya Moore, who had been in the middle of arguing about some minor shade from the previous week's dinner party, suddenly found herself completely speechless with her dramatic hand gesture still suspended in midair. As the reality of K. Michelle's confession began to sink in fully, Cynthia Bailey, who had been sipping her wine quietly throughout the earlier part of the conversation, now placed her glass down with such care that it was clear. She was processing the gravity of what was being shared, and she instinctively reached out a tentative hand toward K. Michelle in a gesture of comfort and support. Portia Williams actually took another small step back, as if to give the moment more space, while her eyes widened with genuine concern because the atmosphere in the room had transformed so quickly, from lighthearted housewives banter mixed with typical drama into something much deeper and much more human than anyone had prepared for when they gathered that evening. K. Michelle then wiped her tear-streaked face with the back of her hand and continued speaking with her voice growing slightly stronger, even as it still carried the weight of everything she had been holding inside for so long. My body has been fighting something serious for weeks now, and the doctors have made it very clear that this situation became much worse because I chose to ignore the early signs and symptoms instead of taking proper care of myself the way I should have. She explained how the discomfort had started during their memorable trip to Miami when they were filming those glamorous poolside scenes, and she had repeatedly complained about feeling unwell with cramps and fatigue, but had quickly brushed everything off by telling herself and everyone around her that it was simply the result of normal stress caused by the constant arguments, the online criticism from blogs and social media, and the personal pressures she faced from past relationships. That continued to linger in her mind. Deep down, however, she admitted that she had known something was not right with her health, but she had made the difficult choice to push through it all. Because on a show like RHOA, admitting any kind of weakness or vulnerability often meant risking being seen as less strong or even being targeted by the other women, who were always looking for an opening to create more compelling television moments. She paused for a moment as her breathing became noticeably shaky while she recalled the exact night when she realized things were beginning to spiral out of her control after an especially explosive reunion taping session where her stomach and overall energy levels had felt completely off, yet she had chosen to take some over-the-counter relief and wash it down quickly before heading back in front of the cameras with a bright smile as if nothing at all was bothering her, because she refused to let anyone feel sorry for her or treat her differently, especially not the ladies who could switch from friendly to competitive in the blink of an eye once the cameras stopped rolling for the day. The other women in the suite exchanged shocked and concerned glances with one another as K. Michelle kept talking openly about how the ongoing pressure of maintaining her fierce and unbreakable image had caused her to put the demands of the show and her career ahead of her own basic well-being in ways that she now deeply regretted. Marlo Hampton, who was usually the first person to have a sharp comment or observation about any situation, remained completely speechless for once, with her mouth opening and closing without any words coming out as the weight of the confession settled over the entire group like a thick blanket of realization. You could have heard a pin drop in that hotel suite as K. Michelle described feeling increasingly isolated and judged for her past mistakes, her previous relationships, and her outspoken personality, which had led her to internalize so much of the negativity that it eventually began affecting her from the inside in ways she had never anticipated. Cynthia Bailey was the first to respond by gently saying, "Girl, what are you telling us right now? This sounds so serious, and we need to make sure you get the proper support and care tonight, because none of us want to see you suffering like this alone anymore." But K. Michelle pulled away slightly at first, with her familiar fire still flickering in her eyes, as she replied with her voice rising just a bit. "Don't touch me right now, Cynthia, because none of you truly understand what I have been going through while all of you are busy throwing subtle shade about my music career, my fluctuating weight, and my choices in relationships. I was dealing with real pain every single day, yet I kept showing up smiling through interviews and scenes, pretending that my life was fabulous and group dynamics, but even she can't hide the empathy in her voice. You've been carrying this alone, and that takes strength. Even if it was misguided strength now, the question is, what happens next? Do we keep filming? Do we pause the season? Do we support you publicly, or does this become the ultimate plot twist that blows up everything? The tension builds as K. Michelle sits back down, her energy draining but her spirit still fighting. I don't know anymore. Part of me wants to quit right here, walk away from RHOA and focus on healing, but another part, the fighter in me, says, I started this, I have to finish it, even if it means exposing every ugly detail on camera, because maybe my story will save somebody else from making the same stupid choices. I did the infection isn't just physical, it's a symptom of deeper issues. The loneliness, the pressure, the fear of fading into irrelevance in an industry that chews up women like me and spits pass out when we show any sign of vulnerability outside. The sweet word begins to spread among the production crew. Whispers turn into frantic phone calls to executives. Because this isn't just personal drama anymore. This could affect the entire franchise's future ratings, contracts, everything. Fans on social media are already buzzing after a leaked clip from earlier in the evening starts circulating, showing K. Michelle's tearful face. Without context, the speculation runs wild. Some guess pregnancy complications, others assume drug issues, but nobody imagines the painful truth she's about to drop, that she knowingly risked her health for the sake of staying relevant on reality TV. Back inside, the women huddle closer, forming an unlikely circle of support. Portia suggests they pray together, something rare for the group but fitting for the moment. Dear God, give K the strength to heal and help us be better friends than we've been. The prayer feels sincere, even if temporary. Because in the world of RHOA, alliances shift faster than the weather. But for tonight, at least, the focus is on K. Michelle and the dangerous infection she's battling. The one she brought upon herself through years of neglecting self-care amid the chaos of fame. As the clock ticks past midnight, K. Michelle shares one final vulnerable admission before the cameras officially cut for the night. I always thought I was Superwoman, unbreakable, but superwomen get sick too, and when they do, the fall is harder. Because nobody expects it, nobody prepares for it. I did this too. Myself, by not listening to my body, by prioritizing the spotlight over my spirit. Now I'm facing the consequences, and whether I come out stronger or broken depends on how I handle what's coming next. The ladies nod in agreement, their faces a mix of worry, admiration, and that underlying housewives calculation about how this will play out in future episodes. But beneath it all, a seed of real sisterhood seems to sprout, even if just for one emotional night in Atlanta. The revelation leaves everyone reeling with questions about loyalty, about the cost of reality, fame, about whether K. Michelle can truly recover while still delivering the drama the audience craves. Because in the end, this isn't just her story, it's a mirror for every woman watching who has ever ignored their own pain to keep up appearances. And as the sweet lights dim, the weight of her words hangs heavy, promising that the coming days will bring more tears, more confrontations, and possibly a turning point that changes the entire RHOA landscape forever. The infection may be treatable, but the emotional scars and the betrayals that led to this moment run much deeper, setting the stage for explosive episodes ahead where alliances will be tested, secrets exposed, and K. Michelle will have to decide if fighting this battle on camera is worth the ultimate price: her health, her future, and her peace of mind. The group disperses slowly, each woman retreating to her own room, but sleep won't come easy tonight, not with the image of K. Michelle's tear-stained face burned into their minds, not with the knowledge that one of their own is suffering in silence. No more. The truth is out, and now the real drama begins, not the scripted kind, but the raw, unfiltered kind that could either heal the group or tear it apart completely depending on how they choose to support or exploit this crisis, because in the world of Real Housewives, nothing stays hidden forever, and K. Michelle's dangerous infection is about to become the storyline nobody saw coming, but everybody will be talking about for seasons to come. The next morning hits like a freight train. K. Michelle wakes up in her luxurious Atlanta hotel room, feeling worse than ever, her body burning with fever and the infection raging harder despite the antibiotics the doctors prescribed late last night. She stares at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, barely recognizing the woman looking back, puffy eyes, dull skin, and that constant sharp pain in her lower abdomen, reminding her with every breath that she did this to herself. By pushing too hard for too long, the phone buzzes nonstop with messages from the cast group chat, but she ignores most of them until one from Portia pops up saying, "We need to talk before today's group lunch. I'm worried about you, sis." She drags herself to the lunch location, a trendy rooftop restaurant overlooking the city skyline where the rest of the ladies are already gathered, trying their best to act normal, but the air is thick with tension. Kenya Moore sips her mimosa, eyeing K. Michelle carefully as she arrives late and slumps into her chair. "You look rough, girl. Be honest. How bad is it really?" K. Michelle snaps back immediately. "Don't start with the fake concern. Kenya, last night was real, but today am not here for your games. The infection is bad. The doctors called this morning saying my white blood cell count is through the roof, and if the antibiotics don't kick in soon, they might have to hospitalize me for treatment. But I'm not quitting the show, not yet. I refuse to let this beat me." The table falls silent for a moment before Cynthia Bailey leans in, her voice soft but firm. "Kay, we talked after you left last night, and we all agree. We want to support you, but we also need to know the full story. What exactly did you do to yourself that made this infection take hold like this? Because hiding stuff is what got you here in the first place." K. Michelle takes a deep breath, her hands trembling as she pushes her untouched salad away. "Fine. You want the painful truth. Here it is. Months ago, after that big fallout with my ex, I was in such a dark place emotionally that I started neglecting everything. My diet, my sleep, my checkups. I was partying, heavy, drinking, too much, popping pills, just to numb the loneliness and stay camera ready. Then when the symptoms started, the constant fatigue, the unusual discharge, the pelvic pain, I Googled it and convinced myself it was just a yeast infection or stress related. I bought over-the-counter stuff from the pharmacy instead of seeing a real doctor because I was terrified of missing filming days or looking weak in front of production." Marlo Hampton chimes in, shaking her head. "Honey, that's dangerous. You know better than that with your history of health issues from past seasons. Why didn't you at least tell one of us off camera?" K. Michelle laughs bitterly, a short, sharp sound that turns into a cough, "because none of you have ever been a safe space for me. Every time I showed vulnerability in the past, it got twisted into storylines or used against me in arguments. Remember when I cried about my family issues and it became ammunition for shade? The next episode, I learned my lesson the hard way, so I suffered in silence, thinking I could handle it alone, but the infection spread. It's not just bacterial anymore, the doctors suspect. It might have complications from an underlying condition I ignored for years, now in facing possible surgery. If things don't improve, and the thought of going under the knife while cameras are rolling terrifies me." Emotions run high as the conversation heats up. Portia Williams sets her fork down hard, her eyes flashing with a mix of anger and empathy. "So you risked your life, your ability to have more kids, just to keep up this tough image. On RHOA, that's insane, Kay, but I get it. I've been there too. The pressure to always be on, always be entertaining, it's exhausting, and it makes you do crazy things like I did. When I hid my pregnancy fears, But this is next level. What are the fans going to say? When this comes out, they'll either rally around you or drag you for being reckless. K. Michelle shrugs, though pain flashes across her face. Let them talk. I've been dragged before. What matters now is getting better. But I'm scared, y'all. The doctors warned me that stress makes it worse, and being around all this drama is pure stress. Every argument, every side eye, every tweet from trolls is like pouring gasoline on the fire. Inside me, Kenya Moore can't resist adding her signature twist, but her tone is less cutting than usual. Look, I know we've had our beefs, but am not heartless. If you need to step back from some scenes, we can make it work without throwing. The fan base splits dramatically. Some rally with hashtags like Team Mitchell and Get Well Suanquen, flooding her pages with love, while trolls accuse her of faking it for a spinoff, or using the infection as an excuse for poor performance on the show. The betrayal cuts deep when an old friend sells a story to the blogs, claiming K. Michelle had been warned multiple times but ignored it for party life and RHOA fame. This sparks a heated group text argument where accusations fly. Porsche defends her fiercely, while another cast member questions the timing of the revelation, calling it calculated drama. K. Michelle reads the messages from her hospital bed, her heart breaking all over again. I thought they had my back, she tells her mother on the phone, but even now, with me fighting for my life, it's business as usual. The family drama intensifies when her own relatives appear on camera, confronting her about years of putting career before health, leading to tearful apologies and raw conversations that feel more authentic than any scripted scene. Weeks later, back on set for the reunion, the atmosphere is electric. K. Michelle walks in stronger, but still recovering her voice steady as she faces the group. I learned the painful truth the hard way. This infection nearly took everything, but it also showed me who my real sisters are, and who was just waiting for me to fall. The arguments erupt again, with old wounds reopened and new betrayals exposed. One housewife admits she leaked private details to producers for better airtime. Another breaks down, confessing her own hidden health struggles. Inspired by K. Michelle's courage, the room fills with shouts, tears, and unexpected hugs, creating the most emotional reunion in RHOA history. Fans watching at home are glued to their screens, tweeting nonstop about how this storyline shifted the entire season from petty shade to life-changing lessons. But just when it seems like healing is happening, a final shocking twist drops. An ex-lover shows up unannounced, accusing K. Michelle of blaming him for her stress and claiming the infection stemmed from their toxic relationship. This leads to an explosive on-camera showdown where K. Michelle stands her ground, yelling, I did this to myself by staying in situations that drained me, not because of you, but because I lost sight of my worth. The confrontation leaves everyone stunned, production scrambling to keep control as emotions reach a boiling point. The cast is divided once more, some siding with her ex for the drama, others fully backing K. Michelle, realizing her journey has exposed the dark underbelly of reality, fame, the pressure, the isolation. The way it forces women to sacrifice their bodies in peace for entertainment. In the final scenes, K. Michelle sits down for a solo confessional, looking directly at the camera with fresh determination. I'm still here. Fighting this infection might have been dangerous, but my comeback will be legendary to every woman watching who feels broken or sick or overlooked. Don't do what I did. Listen to your body, get help early, and never let anyone, including yourself, make you feel like your health comes second. The screen fades on her smile, a mix of pain and power as text overlays tease next season bigger than ever, with K. Michelle leading the charge. The entire RHOA universe has been shaken, alliances tested, friendships reformed, and one woman's painful self-inflicted crisis has become the heartbeat of the show, leaving unresolved questions hanging in the air. Will she fully recover in time for the next trip? Will the group stay united or crumble under new pressures? And most importantly, can K. Michelle truly forgive herself for what she did to her own body? The drama doesn't end with the credits, because behind the scenes whispers suggests possible spin-offs. Focused on health awareness or solo projects for K. Michelle, while some cast members quietly resent the spotlight. She gained from her suffering, the fans remain. Obsessed, dissecting every look, every tear, every word, wondering if the infection story was the ultimate plot twist or a genuine wake-up call for the franchise. The family was left divided, but in true Housewives fashion, they'll reunite for more chaos. Because that's what keeps the audience coming back season after season. Now it's your turn. What do you think happened next? Did K. Michelle do the right thing by revealing everything on camera? Or should she have kept her health battle private? Drop your opinions in the comments below. Do you believe the other ladies were truly supportive or just playing the game for ratings? Which housewife shocked you the most with their reaction, and who do you think will betray K next season? Hit that like button if this story had you on the edge of your seat. Subscribe for more explosive RHOA breakdowns and fabricated drama that feels too real to be fake. Turn on notifications so you never miss when the next bombshell drops. Because trust me, the Atlanta Housewives are just getting started, and K. Michelle's dangerous infection is only the beginning of a saga that will have everyone talking for years to come. Thank you for watching. Stay dramatic and take care of yourselves out there, because your health is the real tea.